Hi, it's Mai here and welcome to the third part of my bookshelf tour. Now in this part we're only going to be going through one shelf, which is my TBR shelf right over here. Now since I haven't read the books, I can't give you my opinions about them, but I'll try to briefly tell you what each book is about as I show them to you. Now if you have seen a video that I posted I think 2 years ago called My TBR Shame, quite a few of these books are actually books that I already owned when I filmed that, so don't judge me. Let's just move on to the books, shall we? So here is my TBR shelf. This shelf is double stacked and the books are in completely random order. I just put them there however they would best fit the shelf, because as you can see it's quite full. Although the books that are in the front are some that I am more interested in reading soon. So the first book is Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson, and this starts his Reckoners series. So this book is about epics, who are these superpowered people, and reckoners, who are the ordinary people who fight them. I think the epics are more like supervillains than superheroes. The second book is How to Be a Victorian by Ruth Goodman, which is a fun non-fiction book going through the day in the life of a regular Victorian. So it has stuff like getting dressed and having breakfast and so on and so forth. And finally we have The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the first book in the Raven cycle, and you might have seen this book a lot of times on my channel because I have always planned to read it and then I have never gotten around to it. This tells about Blue, who is a girl whose family, most of her family are seers, but Blue doesn't have that power. But one day Blue sees the ghost of a boy who has a raven emblem on his sweater, so he's one of the Raven Boys, these boys that go to this one private school nearby. And that's everything I know. I actually don't know anything about the plot. Next I have Scott Lynch's Red Seas Under Red Skies. This is the second Gentleman Bastard book. And the first book is The Lies of Loch Lamora, which I quite enjoyed. It's about a bunch of thieves. And in this second book I think Locke and Jean dabble in a bit of piracy. The second book is a science fiction book. It's Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Curry. And I bought this book because I was interested in the sci-fi TV series that I haven't watched yet because I haven't read the book. I think it focuses on the crew of an ice miner vessel that stumble upon some sort of secret that might be dangerous for them, and also about a missing girl. And then we have The Martian by Andy Weir, which is of course about an astronaut getting stranded on Mars. I bet a lot of you have read this or have seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie, once again, because I haven't read the book yet, and I want to do that first. I actually started this once and read about 60 pages, but then I started reading something else, and this sort of fell by the wayside. Next we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, which I think is about a mysterious circus that arrives at night. And that's all I know. I'm interested in circus stories, and also I think this was a NaNoWriMo novel. I want to check what a published NaNoWriMo novel reads like. Then I have a bind-up of the first 3 books in the Dark is Rising series. These are the Finnish translation. These are of course by Susan Cooper. And I only have the last book, Green Witch, left to read. And the third book is William Shakespeare's Star Wars, Verily a New Hope by Ian Docher. This is the plot of Star Wars A New Hope, written in Shakespeare's iambic pentameter style. And then a couple of my more recent acquisitions, which you might have just seen on a haul video. I have Mary Robinette Kowal's short story collection, Word Puppets. I have A Natural History of Dragons by Mary Brennan. This is the first in the memoirs by Lady Trent, which focuses on a dragon naturalist lady. It tells about her career. She's an old woman writing about her career as a dragon naturalist in a sort of Regency-inspired fancy world. And finally we have Patricia A. McKillip's Umbria in Shadow, in which a prince dies and someone has to fill the power vacuum. And these are the last books on this row. First we have The Just City by Jo Walton. This is about a bunch of Greek gods and goddesses and philosophers who had the idea to try out the just city from Plato's Republic and try out how that would work in real life. Then we have A Discovery of Witches, the first book in the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. This is about a young scholar called Diana who stumbles upon some sort of alchemical manuscript. And Diana comes from a long line of witches, but she wants nothing to do with sorcery. But I guess she gets dragged into all sort of supernatural stuff after finding that manuscript. Then we have Michael Ende's The Never-Ending Story. This is about a young boy called Bastian who starts reading a book called The Never-Ending Story about a boy called Atreyu who tries to save the kingdom of Fantasia, and the borders of reality and fantasy sort of become mixed, and Bastian gets drawn into the story as well. Yay, that's the first row done, and now all of these books. First we have Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. This is set before the Second World War and it tells about a boy who goes to Oxford and befriends a guy called Sebastian and sort of becomes interested in his aristocratic family. Then we have The Blue Sword by Robin McKinley. This is McKinley's young adult or middle grade fantasy book. It tells about a girl called Harry who gets kidnapped by some hill folk and trained in the arts of war. Then we have a couple of Caitlin R. Kiernan books. The first is Low Red Moon. This comes after Threshold and it tells of Chance's and Deacon's life after the events of Threshold. And the second one is Murder of Angels. This is also a continuation of another novel of hers, that novel being Silk. This is set 10 years after Silk. Then we have The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. This, of course, continues the Gentleman Bastard series. It's the third book. I'm not going to say any more since it's the third one and I haven't even read the second one. And then we have the second bind-up of Susan Cooper's The Dark is Rising. This has the final two books, The Grey King and Silver on the Tree. And the third book is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. This book has something to do with Dracula. I want to reread Dracula before I read this book. And I don't actually know anything else about this. And the first book here is Spock Must Die by James Blish. And this is the first Star Trek novel that isn't a novelization of an episode. And in this one, for some reason, two Spocks come out of a transporter chamber where only one went in, and one of them has to die. The next is The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. This is a military science fiction book about a man who goes to battle aliens a long, long way from Earth. And of course, thanks to the time dilation caused by space travel, he's aging months while the Earth he left behind is aging centuries. And next we have a children's book. This is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. And this is about a group of children who go on a secret mission. I think the children respond to an ad in a newspaper looking for gifted children, and they go on some sort of mission. And then we have A Madness of Angels by Kate Griffin. This is the first book in the Matthew Swift urban fantasy series. I only know that this takes place in London. Matthew is a sorcerer and there are angels. Then we have another Caitlin R. Kiernan book. This is Daughter of Hounds. This is about a group of changelings called the Children of the Cuckoo. They're stolen from their cribs and raised by ghouls, and they are in some sort of service to creatures who rule the world below. Then we have Little Brother by Cory Doctorow, a dystopian young adult book. The main character is called Marcus, and he is a good hacker, but then there's a terrorist attack on San Francisco, and Marcus and his crew are apprehended by the Department of Homeland Security, and they go to prison, and when they are released, they decide to take down the Department of Homeland Security. Next we have Heaven's Queen, the third and final book in the Paradox trilogy by Rachel Bach. I just finished the second book, Honest Knight, and I really liked it. This series tells about a mercenary called Devi who gets hired on this ship that goes on very dangerous missions, and this is a space adventure that focuses quite a lot on romance. And finally here we have Prudence by Gail Carriger. This is her new Custard Protocol series, the first book in that, and I'm waiting until I have read the finishing school books to read this one. I have read the Parasol Protectorate books, after which this takes place, but I still want to read the finishing school books first, because they take place in the same universe, although quite a few years before the Parasol Protectorate. And we are nearing the end. First we have Nancy Mitford's The Sun King. This is about Louis XIV and Versailles, and I picked this up from a shelf in the library where people could leave their old books, and people could take books from there. And I thought I'd wanted to read about Versailles, so why not? Then there's the first book in the Magisterium series by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is The Iron Trial. I bought this because of Holly Black. I really enjoy her writing. This is a very Harry Potter-y sounding series about a group of kids who go to magic school. And the third book is Supernatural Noir, an anthology of darker fantasy stories edited by Ellen Datlow. I picked it up because it has a story from Caitlin R. Kiernan in it. And here are the last three books. All of these I've got for free. The first is Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen, which I won in a giveaway from one read-along or another. It's a bit out of my comfort zone. I think it's historical fiction romance, but I'm interested in circus stories. Then we have a bind-up of the Bromeliad trilogy by Terry Pratchett, and these are about some sort of tiny gnomes that live in a department store, I think. I really don't know anything else about this. I just saw this in a recycling shelf and I picked it up because it was Terry Pratchett. And the final book is Diana Wynne Jones's Mixed Magics, which belongs to her Crestomancy series. This is a collection of short fiction. This was a book that my library was getting rid of, and for some reason it didn't cost the usual €1.50. It was just for free. So I picked it up. I have enjoyed other Crestomancy stories, but I think there's a couple of other books in this series I need to read before reading this one. So that was the tour of my to-be-read shelf. I hope you enjoyed it, even though I couldn't tell you how I felt about these books since I haven't read them yet. And I'll be back later on with more of my bookshelf tour.